Take a slow breath and let it fall away without effort. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember. You are safe here. You are not late. You have arrived at a place where time has not yet learned how to move. Before the first story was told, before the first name was spoken, there was a night that did not begin. Not darkness as you know it, not the absence of light, but something quieter than both. This is the Slavic night that came before creation. A night that was not waiting for morning. As you listen, you don't need to imagine anything clearly. Let the images stay soft. Let them blur at the edges. In the oldest Slavic remembering, there was a time when even silence had not yet decided what it was. No earth to stand on, no sky to look up into, no breath moving in and out. And yet, this was not emptiness. That is the gentle paradox. Nothing existed, and still, something was already present. Not a god, not a being with a face or a voice, just a presence so still that it did not need to announce itself. You might imagine it as a vast night, not stretching outward, but resting inward. In this night, there was no before and after, no reason for things to happen, and that is why it was calm. The early Slavic people did not fear this night. They did not rush to escape it. They believed this quiet came before all struggle, long before villages, before fires were shared, before hands learned to shape tools. They sensed that everything meaningful was born from stillness first. As you lie listening now, your body understands this older truth. That rest comes before action. You are allowed to rest here. In this pre-creation night, nothing needed direction, nothing needed purpose. There were no paths, and no one lost. Imagine a space where even thoughts arrive slowly, where they drift in and drift away before needing to finish. This is how the Slavic night held everything. The elders once described it, not as darkness, but as deep belonging. Everything was already included, without having to exist yet. You don't need to hold onto that idea. Let it pass through you, like a quiet wind that leaves no trace. In this night, there was no hunger, no need, no waiting, and because nothing was missing, nothing moved. Some believed this stillness was listening, not watching, just listening without ears. Others believed the night was simply resting, gathering itself, without knowing why. As you breathe now, slow and unforced, you are closer to this ancient calm than you might realize. The Slavic night did not push creation forward. It did not plan the world. It allowed space, and over a long, unmeasured quiet, that space began to feel slightly different, not brighter, not louder, just less perfectly still. No one noticed at first. There was no one to notice, but something subtle shifted, like the faintest ripple on a surface that had never moved before. You don't need to follow that change yet. There is no hurry. For now, rest inside the night, as it was meant to be, whole, undisturbed, complete without form. If thoughts come, let them drift. If images fade, let them go. You are not missing anything. And somewhere within this ancient stillness, without sound, without intention, the quiet itself, began to soften, not enough to become creation, not yet just enough to remind the night that it was not empty after all. And as that thought fades, you can let yourself fade with it, resting deeply where even beginnings have not yet learned to stay where you are. Nothing has moved yet. The night is still holding everything gently. You are safe here. You are not observing from outside. You are resting inside the same quiet the early Slavic mind once felt. The night before creation did not change suddenly. There was no moment you could point to, no sound, no signal. Change arrived the way rest deepens, without asking permission. In this endless calm, silence began to notice itself, not as a thought, not as awareness the way you know it, but as the faintest difference between being perfectly still and being almost still. The old Slavic stories never rushed this moment. They understood that beginnings are fragile. Too much attention can break them. So they spoke of it quietly. They said the night did not wake. It did not open its eyes. It simply paused, and in that pause, something that had always been there felt slightly closer to the surface. Not light, not darkness, just presence, becoming aware of its own depth. As you listen now, your breathing may already be slower. Your body remembers how to exist without needing direction. The Slavic night held no borders, no edges, nothing to divide one place from another. And yet, within that boundless quiet, a gentle sense of here began to form, not a location, a feeling here, as opposed to nowhere at all. The elders never named this moment. Names come later. They only hinted at it through feeling. They believed this was the first kindness, space allowing itself to be noticed without pressure. Imagine sitting in a room where nothing happens for a very long time and slowly realizing that the room has always been holding you. That was the night. In this stillness, nothing wanted to be born. Nothing struggled to emerge. Creation was not an act. It was a permission that had not yet been given. As you rest here, you don't need to follow the story forward. Let it come to you instead. The early Slavic people lived close to silence. Long winters, wide forests, evenings where firelight flickered quietly and words were used carefully. They understood that silence is not empty. It is full, just not demanding. That understanding shaped how they imagined the beginning. They believed the world did not start with force. It started with listening. In the pre-creation night, nothing spoke, but everything was heard, and that listening slowly changed the quality of the quiet. Not enough to disturb it, just enough to make it breathable. You might feel that now, a softness behind your thoughts, a space where effort loosens its grip. You are not drifting away, you are drifting inward. The Slavic night did not fear what was coming. Fear requires contrast, and contrast had not yet arrived. There was only calm, learning how to hold something new. Some stories say this was when the night grew deep, not darker, deeper, depth without direction, depth without weight, like sinking gently into sleep without falling. No one marked the moment. No sound announced it. But the stillness was no longer untouched. You don't need to imagine what comes next. Not yet. Stay with this softened quiet. Let it surround you the way water surrounds a resting body. In time, and time had not yet learned its name, this gentle difference would matter. But for now, it is enough to feel how silence can chain without breaking. As your thoughts slow, as your body settles, you are close to the same calm. The old stories protected. Nothing is required of you. Nothing is expected. And somewhere within this listening night, without urgency, without sound, the quiet held its breath, not to begin, but simply to remain. Rest here a little longer before anything learns how to exist. If you're ready, we will drift further soon, not toward creation, but toward what waited patiently. Remain before where you are. Nothing has asked you to move. The night is still wide, still patient. You are safe inside this listening quiet. You don't need to understand it. You only need to rest within it. Before creation, the Slavic night was not a story. It was a condition, a way of being, where nothing stood apart from anything else, but slowly, so slowly, that even memory would later struggle to describe it. A difference appeared, not an object, not a being, just a difference. The old Slavic mind did not imagine beginnings as events. They imagined them as changes in balance. This was the first balance to shift. Silence was still everywhere, but it was no longer perfectly even. Like a lake, before wind touches it, and after, no waves, no movement you could see, just a feeling that the surface was no longer exactly the same. The elders never said what changed. They only said that the night noticed itself being slightly unequal. This mattered deeply to them, because from difference, all things eventually grow. As you listen now, you might feel your own awareness softly shifting, not toward thought, but toward ease. The Slavic night did not resist this difference. There was no fear of imbalance. Difference did not mean danger. It meant possibility, though that word had not yet been formed. In this pre-creation quiet, nothing separated sky from ground. Nothing divided near from far. And yet, somewhere within the vast stillness, a sense of inside and outside began to gently blur, as if they were considering becoming real. You don't need to picture it clearly. Let the idea remain soft. This was not the birth of the world. It was the loosening of sameness. The Slavic people believed that too much sameness is sleep, and too much difference is chaos. The night before creation rested exactly between the two, balanced, but no longer frozen. This is why their myths feel slow, why nothing rushes forward. They were not telling stories of power. They were preserving a memory of balance. As you lie here now, your body understands this instinctively. Your breathing finds its own rhythm, without instruction. That is balance returning. In the deep night, the difference did not grow. It did not expand outward. It settled inward, like a thought that never fully forms, but changes how you feel anyway. Some later stories hinted that this difference was warmth. Others said it was depth, but the earliest tellings refused to define it. To name something is to pull it forward in time, and time was not ready yet. So the Slavic night held this difference, the way you hold sleep when you are not quite dreaming, aware but drifting. If thoughts pass through you now, let them pass. They do not need to stay. The night itself did not cling. It allowed the difference to exist without demanding more from it. This, the elders believed, was the first kindness, not creation, not intention, allowance, and because nothing forced it forward, the difference remained gentle. It did not become light. It did not become form. It simply waited without knowing what waiting was. As your body relaxes further, as your awareness softens, you are touching the same quiet threshold. The old stories circled around, a place where nothing has happened, but not nothingness. The Slavic night did not ask what would come next. Questions arrive later. For now, the difference rested within the whole, unchallenged, unmeasured, and somewhere deep inside this vast calm, without sound, without form, the night learned that it could chain and still remain itself. Rest with that knowing. Let it settle behind your breath. There is no need to continue forward yet, because before the world could appear, the night needed to learn how to hold something new, and it was still learning. Very, very stay gently where you are. Nothing has been lost. Nothing has been left behind. You are still inside the Slavic night before creation, the long quiet that existed before stories learned how to speak. By now, the night was no longer perfectly uniform, not broken, not divided, just layered. The early Slavic mind imagined this as depth. Not depth you could fall into, but depth you could rest within. Silence still filled everything, yet it carried meaning without words. This is where the topic truly begins to unfold. Before gods, before earth and sky, the Slavic people believed meaning came first. Not meaning as explanation, but meaning as feeling. A sense that something mattered, even though nothing had happened yet. As you breathe now, slow and natural, your body recognizes this state. It is the feeling just before sleep becomes deep, when thoughts fade, but awareness remains warm. The night before creation was not empty waiting. It was full stillness, and within that fullness, the difference that had appeared earlier began to settle into place. Not growing, not spreading, just belonging. The Slavic elders believed this was when the night became capable of holding meaning, meaning without language, meaning without purpose. Like the way a place can feel important before you know why. This mattered deeply to a people who lived close to forests and seasons, where change was slow and patience was survival. They did not imagine creation as a command or a battle. They imagined it as the night becoming ready, ready to hold difference without losing calm. As you listen, you may notice your body sinking further into stillness. That is not sleep pulling you away. That is the same readiness the night itself was learning. In the Slavic telling, this stage lasted longer than anything that followed, because readiness cannot be rushed. There were still no beings, no watchers, no voices, but there was now a quiet sense of aboutness. not about something specific, just the feeling that the stillness was no longer meaningless. The night had weight now, not heavy, but present, like a blanket resting gently without pressing down. Some later traditions tried to name the state. They failed because names arrived too late. The earliest Slavic memory left it unnamed on purpose to protect its softness. You don't need to understand this fully. Understanding is not required here. Let the idea drift the way dreams do, half-formed, unnecessary to complete. The night did not try to become more. It simply learned it could hold less sameness without falling apart. This was the quiet skill that made everything else possible. As your breathing deepens, as your muscles loosen, you are moving closer to the same internal stillness. Nothing is demanded of you. The Slavic people believed that when the night learned to hold meaning, it also learned patience. Patience without boredom. Patience without waiting, just being fully. Creation did not arrive next. That would come much later. First, the night had to remain stable with this new depth. So it rested, and as it rested, the difference remained quiet, the meaning remained soft, and nothing rushed forward. If your thoughts slow now, let them. If they pause, allow that too. You are not falling behind. You are aligning with a much older rhythm. Somewhere deep within this pre-creation calm, without sound or intention, the night settled into itself, ready but not yet moving, and that readiness, that held meaning without form, would eventually matter. But for now, there is nothing to do but rest within it. Because before anything could exist, the night had to learn how to remain whole while holding change, and it was still doing that, quietly, patiently, without beginning. Let yourself rest there, where even meaning remains allowed to sleep. Nothing has shifted suddenly. Nothing has broken the calm. You are still inside the Slavic night before creation, the long readiness that came before form, before intention, before motion. By now, the night was no longer just still. It was capable, not capable of action, but capable of holding what had not yet arrived. The Slavic people believed this stage mattered more than anything that followed, because once things exist, they begin to change quickly. But readiness is slow. In the old understanding, the night did not wait for creation. It prepared without knowing for what. That is the quiet truth of this topic. Before gods, before sky and soil, there was a state that could receive difference without becoming unstable. The night had learned balance. As you listen now, your own body is doing something similar. Muscles release, breath deepens, thoughts lose their sharp edges. You are not falling asleep away from the story. You are moving closer to how the story itself existed, unforced, unhurried. The Slavic night did not yet contain directions. There was no up or down, no center and edge, but there was now a subtle sense of holding, like cupped hands that have not yet been filled. The elders believed this holding was not physical. It was emotional, a calm acceptance that something new could arrive without needing to be controlled. This belief shaped how they lived. They respected slow seasons. They honored long winters. They trusted that growth does not begin loudly. Creation, to them, was not a command, it was a response to readiness. And in the night before creation, readiness was everywhere, not tense, not alert, just present. As you rest now, notice how effort leaves your body when it is no longer needed. That letting go is the same skill the night mastered. The Slavic night did not imagine itself as lonely. Loneliness requires separation, and separation had not yet formed. Everything that would ever exist was already included, not as objects, but as potential. You do not need to picture this clearly. Let it remain a feeling, potential without pressure. Some later stories tried to describe this as a womb, others as a deep water. But the earliest tellings avoided metaphor. They understood that images arrive too late. This night was before imagination, and still it was not nothing. That is why the Slavic people returned to this idea again and again. They believed that when life becomes loud, you return in memory to the quiet that existed first. As you listen now, you are doing exactly that, returning not backward, but inward. The readiness of the night did not demand outcome. It did not lean toward creation. It did not push anything forward. It simply remained open. And openness, held long enough, changes the nature of stillness. The night began to feel less closed, not open in space, open in possibility. This did not disturb the calm. It deepened it, like a breath taken fully, then released slowly. If you notice your own breath now, let it move on its own. You do not need to guide it. The night before creation did not guide itself either. It trusted its own balance. This is why creation, when it finally came, did not arrive as an explosion in the oldest Slavic sense. It arrived as a continuation, but that moment is still far away. For now, the night remained exactly as it needed to be, ready but unmoving, and within that readiness, nothing felt rushed. If your thoughts soften further, allow them to fade. You are not missing the story. You are resting inside its most important part. Because before anything could exist, before anything could be named, there had to be a place where existence would be welcomed without fear. The Slavic night became that place, quietly, gently, without announcement. And as that readiness settles deeper, you can let yourself settle too, resting, supported, held by the same calm that once held the world before it began. Nothing more is needed right now. The night remains, and you may rest within it a little longer, very gently, very slowly, without beginning, remain without end. Nothing has pulled you forward. Nothing has asked you to wake. You are still inside the Slavic night before creation, the calm that learned how to hold readiness without turning into motion. By this point, in the oldest remembering, the night had become steady, not frozen, not rigid, steady, the way deep water steadies after a long stillness. The Slavic people believed this steadiness was essential. Without it, anything that tried to appear would dissolve immediately. So before form, there had to be a place that could receive it. The night became that place, not by effort, not by decision, by patience alone. As you listen now, your body may feel heavier, not weighed down, but supported. This is the same sensation the old stories describe when the night grew capable of receiving form. Form had not arrived yet. Nothing had edges, nothing had outline, but the possibility of form no longer felt impossible. This is an important shift in the topic. Before this moment, difference could exist, meaning could exist, readiness could exist, but nothing could remain. Now, the night could hold without losing calm. The Slavic mind did not imagine this as a moment of power. They imagined it as a quiet agreement between stillness and what might come next, an agreement without words. As your breathing slows naturally, you are participating in the same agreement. You are allowing experience without forcing it forward. In the night before creation, nothing demanded shape, but the night no longer resisted it either. This balance mattered deeply to people who lived with forests, with rivers that changed slowly, with seasons that taught patience. They understood that forcing form too early creates imbalance. So, in their oldest stories, the night waited until it was strong enough to remain gentle. You don't need to picture what form will look like. That comes later. For now, it is enough to feel how the stillness changed. Without breaking, the night was no longer just listening. It was able to receive, like soil before the first seed, like a room before anyone enters, like sleep before dreams begin to form. If thoughts appear now, let them pass without attachment. The night did not cling. It trusted that whatever arrived would arrive gently if the space remained calm. This trust is part of the Slavic worldview. Creation was not something to be controlled. It was something to be allowed. In this stage of the night, allowance had matured. Not eagerness, not anticipation, just quiet strength. The elders believed this was why the world, when it finally appeared, was imperfect, because it was allowed to be, not forced to be. As your body relaxes further, as your awareness softens, you may feel the same quiet strength settling inside you. There is nothing you need to prepare for. The night itself prepared, without knowing what it prepared for. This is why the Slavic night is remembered with respect. It was not dramatic. It was dependable. Dependability, in the old understanding, was sacred before form. There must be something that can hold form without collapsing. The night became that foundation. Slowly, silently, and still, nothing rushed forward. Creation was closer now, but still not present. That closeness did not disturb the calm. It deepened it, like a breath that pauses at its fullest point before releasing. If your breath does that now, allow it. You are not waiting. You are resting inside readiness. The Slavic night held this state for longer than any other, because once form arrives, stillness is never the same again. For now, stillness remained whole. And as that steadiness settled, the night quietly confirmed that it could remain itself, even when something new eventually appeared. That confirmation did not echo. It did not announce itself. It simply rested. You can rest there too, supported, unhurried, unconcerned with what comes next. because the night is still holding everything, and you are held within it. Nothing more is required. Only this gentle staying inside the stillness that has not yet become the calm you are already in. Nothing new has entered. Nothing has been taken away. You are still within the Slavic night before creation, now steady, now capable, now quietly complete. By this stage, the night had learned how to remain whole, while holding the possibility of form. But one thing was still missing. There was no separation, no distinction between one thing and another. No sense of this and that. The Slavic people believed this was the final calm before anything could truly exist, because existence requires distance, not distance in space, distance in meaning. As you listen now, notice how your body rests as one piece, no part pulling away, no effort dividing attention. This is how the night remained, whole. Even the difference that had appeared earlier was still blended into everything else. It had not stepped forward. It had not stood apart. It was simply there, everywhere at once. The elders said this was the most delicate state of all, because once separation begins, nothing can return to being completely whole again. So the night lingered here, not hesitating, not resisting, just resting fully in what it already was. The Slavic night did not fear separation. Fear needs contrast, and contrast had not yet been born. But readiness was now so complete that even sameness began to feel almost finished, not exhausted, not worn thin, complete, the way a deep breath feels complete just before it turns into an exhale. You may feel that now, a quiet fullness, without tension. The old stories never describe a decision being made here. There was no choosing, no command. They believed separation emerged because the night could finally support it, support without breaking. This is important to the topic. Creation, in the Slavic sense, did not begin with action. It began with allowing difference to stand. Before this moment, difference existed only as feeling. Now, it was almost ready to become distinct, but not yet. The night rested, one last time, as a single, unbroken whole. As you lie here, let your awareness soften even more. You do not need to follow the story forward. You are exactly where it needs you to be. In this state, nothing pulled attention outward. There was no center, no edge. Everything belonged everywhere. The Slavic people believed this is why the world still carries traces of unity, why forests feel whole, why rivers do not argue with their banks, why sleep restores what waking divides. They believed memory of this night still lives quietly inside you, not as thought, as comfort. As the night before creation settled into its final wholeness, it did not rush forward. It allowed stillness to finish being still. That finishing was not an ending. It was a readiness, so complete that even division could soon exist without chaos. If thoughts come now, let them drift. Nothing is asking you to be alert. You are resting in the last moment before difference steps forward. The night is calm. The balance is steady. Nothing trembles. And somewhere within this total calm, without sound, without intention. The idea of separate began to form, not as an action, but as a quiet possibility that had finally found a place stable enough to stand. That moment is close now, but still not here. For now, the night remains whole, and you can remain here with it, safe, undivided, resting inside the calm that existed just before the world learned how to be more than one. Nothing more is needed, only this gentle staying a little longer before separation quietly arrives. And until then, the night holds everything. Stay gently together where you are. Nothing has broken the calm. Nothing has fallen away. You are still within the Slavic night before creation, but now the night is no longer perfectly folded into itself. Something subtle has happened, not a movement, not a sound, a leaning. The elders never said the night split. They said it relaxed, like hands that have been clasped for a long time, slowly easing apart, without letting go. This was the first hint of separation, not separation as distance, but separation as recognition. The night began to sense that everything did not need to be exactly the same in order to remain whole. As you listen now, you may feel your awareness gently widening, not focusing, just opening. This is the same internal shift the Slavic night was learning. Before this moment, difference could exist only as feeling. Now, difference was allowed to rest slightly apart, without conflict, without force. The Slavic people believed this was the quiet birth of relation. One thing becoming aware that it was not everything, and finding that this awareness did not bring fear. The night remained calm, steady, patient. Only now, calm had room to breathe. You don't need to imagine shapes. There were still no forms, no edges, just a gentle sense. That sameness was no longer required. The elders said this was when the night became spacious, not larger, more spacious, like silence expanding without growing louder. As your body rests now, notice how stillness can contain small movements, the rise of breath, the release of muscle, without becoming disturbed. That is the same balance the night was holding. This moment mattered deeply because separation did not arrive as rupture. It arrived as trust. Trust that difference would not destroy unity. The Slavic understanding of creation depends on this idea. The world was not torn into pieces. It was allowed to unfold. In the night before creation, the first unfolding was almost invisible, so quiet that later stories struggled to describe it. They spoke instead of space becoming aware of itself, not space as distance, space as permission, permission for one thing to rest beside another without needing to merge. As you listen, your own thoughts may rest farther apart now. No need to connect them. That looseness is the same ancient permission. The night did not hurry forward after this. It did not rush into creation. It paused again, because separation, once allowed, needed time to settle. The elders believed this pause protected the world from chaos later. Nothing was forced to become distinct before it was ready. Difference was allowed to be gentle. This is why in Slavic memory, the earliest world, retained softness, why forests feel layered, not divided, why rivers curve, not cut. They believed the character of the world was shaped here in the way separation first appeared. As you rest now, you are inside that shaping moment. No urgency, no command, just quiet allowance. The night before creation did not lose itself. When it leaned apart, it discovered that wholeness does not require sameness. That discovery changed everything without sounding like change at all. If sleep pulls at you now, let it. You are not leaving the story. You are entering it the way it was meant to be entered, slowly, without edges. The night rested in this new spaciousness for a very long time, long enough for separation to feel natural, long enough for calm to remain untouched. And somewhere within this softened space, without sound or announcement, the conditions for creation were quietly forming, not as action, but as balance that could finally support more than one. That moment is approaching now, still gently, still slowly, but for now, remain here, resting, inside the night that learned how to open without breaking. Nothing more is required. Only this quiet presence, this gentle spacing, this calm before the world learns stay exactly how to appear. Do not move forward. Do not drift back. The night is still holding its shape. You are resting inside the Slavic night just before creation, after it learned how to open, but before anything stepped fully apart. This was the moment the elders described with the most care, because this was where distance first appeared. Not distance you could measure, not space you could cross. A quiet distance, a difference that could remain separate without becoming distant. The night did not divide. It allowed room. In the oldest Slavic understanding, this was the beginning of relation. One presence no longer had to be everything. Another could exist beside it, without conflict. This mattered more than creation itself, because without this quiet distance, nothing could coexist. As you listen now, notice how your thoughts no longer press together. They arrive and rest without needing to connect. This is the same spacing the night was learning. Before this, everything overlapped completely. Nothing could be distinguished, even in feeling. Now, distinction became possible without loss of calm. The elders did not describe this as two things appearing. They described it as one thing, no longer needing to be everything. That release created space, not empty space, gentle space, space that did not demand filling. The night remained dark, silent, steady, but now it could hold more than one presence without collapsing inward. This is where the topic deepens. The Slavic night before creation was not about beginnings. It was about learning how to coexist before anything existed. This belief shaped how the Slavs understood life. Villages, forests, families, seasons. Nothing was meant to dominate everything else. Everything was meant to remain in quiet relation. They believed this rule was written into the world before the world itself appeared. As you rest now, your body is practicing the same rule. Breath moves, muscles soften, awareness remains. Nothing interferes. In the night, this quiet distance did not expand quickly. It stabilized, like ice forming slowly on still water, not cracking, not rushing, just becoming strong enough to remain. The elders believed this was when the night became structured, not ordered, not arranged, structured enough to support difference. Still, there were no forms, no outlines, no names, only spacing, only relation. And because nothing was named, nothing competed. Competition requires identity. Identity had not yet arrived. The night rested in this state longer than any that followed. Because once identity appears, rest becomes fragile. As you lie listening, you may feel yourself sinking deeper, not away, inward. This is not loss of awareness. This is awareness becoming spacious. The Slavic night did not move forward from here. It settled. Distance was allowed to become natural. No tension, no pulling apart, just enough space for something else to someday appear. The elders believed this moment determined how gentle the world would be, because violence begins when separation arrives too fast. Here, separation arrived slowly enough to remain kind. The night did not celebrate this. It did not mark it. It simply rested in the knowledge that it could now hold more without breaking. If sleep comes closer now, let it. You are not missing anything. Nothing important happens suddenly here. This part of the story was meant to be felt, not followed. The night before creation did not rush toward form. It respected distance. And in respecting distance, it protected unity. This is why the world, in the Slavic sense, was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be balanced. As your breathing slows, as your thoughts widen, you are resting inside the same balance. Nothing asks for your attention. Nothing needs completion. The night remains dark. The spacing remains gentle. And somewhere within this quiet distance, without sound or intention, the conditions for form continue to settle, not as urgency, not as desire, as readiness. That moment will come, but not yet. For now, remain here, resting, inside the night that learned how to allow distance without losing calm. Nothing more is required, only this quiet presence, this gentle spacing, this calm before the world learns remain where you appear. The spacing has settled. The calm has not shifted. The night still holds everything gently. You are inside the Slavic night before creation, after distance has become possible, before anything takes shape. At this stage, the elders said the night felt complete in a new way. Not complete because it was finished, but complete because it could now support what had once been impossible. Form, not form as object, not form as outline, form as the idea that something could remain without dissolving back into sameness. This is where readiness subtly changed direction. It did not hurry. It did not lean forward suddenly. It simply turned its attention inward. The Slavic people believed this inward turning was the first quiet gesture of creation, not an action, a consideration, As you listen now, you may notice your awareness doing the same. Thoughts no longer spread outward. They rest closer together, without pressing. That gathering is not tension, it is preparation. In the night, spacing had already been established. Distance was stable. Relation was calm. Now, within that stable spacing, the possibility of form could be held without fear. The elders never described this as intention. Intention requires desire. Desire had not yet appeared. Instead, they spoke of alignment. Everything that existed as potential was quietly aligning with the space that could hold it. This alignment did not create movement. It created coherence. The night was no longer only wide. It was gently focused, not focused on something specific, focused enough to remain steady if something arrived. This distinction mattered deeply to a people who valued balance over control. Creation, in their understanding, was never forced into being. It was invited by stability. As you rest now, your body is doing something similar. Muscles soften, breath evens out. Awareness remains clear enough to stay present. You are not falling away. You are becoming stable enough to let go. In the night, this stability was not dramatic. It did not announce itself. It simply remained. The elders believed this was the moment. The night became trustworthy enough to hold form without turning it into struggle. Before this, anything that tried to appear would fade immediately. Now, appearance could linger. Still, nothing had appeared yet. This pause mattered because readiness must be tested by remaining still. The night held itself in this aligned calm for a very long time, long enough that readiness stopped feeling like effort. It became natural. As you listen now, notice how effort leaves your body when nothing is demanded. That ease is the same quality the night achieved. The Slavic elders believed this was why the world, when it finally formed, was layered rather than sharp, because its foundation was patience. In this stage, the night could sense that form would not disrupt calm. That understanding was not logical, it was felt, like knowing you can rest your weight without falling. The night rested its weight into readiness, and readiness held. No sound marked this, no shift in light, no beginning, only a subtle chain in how possibility was held. Possibility was no longer everywhere. It was gathered, not compressed, collected. As your breathing slows, as awareness becomes steady, you are resting inside that same collected calm. Nothing pulls you forward. Nothing needs resolution. The night before creation was not concerned with outcomes. It was concerned with integrity. Could it remain whole while allowing form to exist? That question was not asked in words. It was answered in stillness, and the answer was gentle. Yes, yes, without strain, yes, without urgency. The night remained aligned. The spacing remained kind. The calm remained deep. Form had not yet arrived, but it was now welcome. This is where the topic rests for now, not at creation, but at the final readiness before it. As you lie listening, you are not approaching an event. You are resting inside a condition that makes events possible. If sleep comes now, let it come. The night does not require your attention. It holds itself. It holds you. And somewhere within this aligned stillness, without sound or movement, the shape of the world is quietly becoming possible, not yet forming, not yet appearing, simply allowed. Remain here a little longer, inside the calm that learned how to gather itself without breaking. Nothing more is required, only this steady presence, this collected quiet, this readiness before form. Remain as you are. How to stay. The night has not shifted away from you. The calm has not thinned. Everything is still held. You are inside the Slavic night before creation, where readiness has gathered, where form is welcome, but nothing has been asked to arrive. At this stage, the elders believed something subtle changed in how possibility behaved. Possibility was no longer fleeting. It no longer passed through the night and dissolved back into sameness. It lingered, not as shape, not as motion, as willingness. The night did not invite possibility forward. It simply stopped pushing it away. This is an important turn in the topic. Before this moment, the night could hold readiness, spacing, alignment. Now, it could hold duration. Something could remain without needing to be defined. As you listen now, you may notice how your awareness stays present without effort. Thoughts come, thoughts go, but presence remains. That remaining is the same quality the night achieved. The Slavic people believed this was when potential became trustworthy, not powerful, not urgent, trustworthy enough to stay without disrupting calm. They did not imagine the night as creating this change. They imagined the night as allowing it. Allowance, in their worldview, was stronger than force. In this state, possibility did not rush toward becoming something. It rested, like a word held gently in the mouth before being spoken, not because it must be spoken, but because it can be. The night before creation was filled with such held moments, moments that did not yet need names. As your breathing settles, you may feel a similar holding, not holding your breath, but holding ease. This is not anticipation. It is comfort with what is not yet here. The elders believed this comfort was essential. Without it, creation would arrive as disruption. With it, creation could arrive as continuation. The night now knew it could support continuation. It would not collapse if something remained distinct. It would not lose calm if something endured. This understanding did not appear suddenly. It settled. The night rested inside it until it felt natural. As you lie listening, notice how natural stillness feels now. No effort to stay, no effort to leave, just being. In this stage, the Slavic night was no longer only a condition. It was a foundation, not a base that holds weight, but a field that holds presence. Presence could remain without friction. The elders believed this is why the earliest world was gentle in its beginnings, because what first stayed did not have to fight to stay. The night did not test possibility. It trusted it. Trust is quiet. Trust does not demand proof. It simply allows time. The night gave time without measuring it. Time had not yet begun, but duration had. Something could last without becoming fixed. As your awareness softens further, you may feel that same gentle lasting, a sense that rest does not need to end. This is not sleep taking you away. It is sleep arriving to stay. In the Slavic telling, this was the final inner readiness. Spacing existed, alignment existed, form was welcome. Now, duration was possible. Nothing more was required before creation could appear. And still, the night did not rush. It allowed duration to become stable, like allowing warmth to spread evenly before stepping into it. If thoughts fade now, let them. The story does not require attention. It is doing what it needs to do on its own. The night before creation did not need witnesses. It needed steadiness. And steadiness had arrived. Possibility was now willing to stay, not eager, not impatient, just present. This presence did not disturb the night. It deepened it. As you rest now, you are resting inside, the same deepening. Nothing pulls forward, nothing pulls back, only this calm holding, where something could remain without asking permission. Creation is close now, not close in time, close in readiness, but it is still not here. For now, the night remains, with possibility at rest inside it. And you may rest here too, supported, unhurried, without needing to know what comes next. Nothing more is required, only this steady calm, this gentle staying, this night that learned how to let possibility remain at rest. Remained. Nothing has crossed over yet. The night still holds its calm. You are inside the Slavic night before creation, at the quiet threshold where everything needed is present and nothing has yet begun. The elders spoke of this day as a threshold without a door. Nothing opened, nothing closed, and yet something could now pass. This is where the topic narrows. Before this moment, readiness was internal, spacing was internal, alignment was internal, duration was internal. Now, the night could support transition, not transition as change, transition as allowance. Form could begin without forcing the night to stop being what it was. As you listen now, notice how your awareness rests right at the edge of sleep, not awake, not drifting, balanced. That balance is the same condition the night had reached. The Slavic people believed creation did not start with movement. It started with the ability to remain calm while something new appeared. This is why they did not imagine a sudden beginning. They imagined a crossing so gentle that nothing noticed it happening. The night did not announce this readiness. It simply remained stable when it could have become tense. In this stage, the night held everything right at the point where form could begin to stay, not appear and vanish, not flicker and fade. Stay as your breathing slows, as your body becomes still. You are resting at the same inner threshold. You are not required to cross it. The story will not move forward suddenly. The Slavic elders believed this pause protected the world from arriving too loudly. Everything that followed would carry the memory of this gentle threshold. This is why, in their worldview, nothing truly begins without first resting. The night before creation did not step aside to make room. It widened without leaving itself behind. That widening was not expansion, it was acceptance. The night accepted that something new could exist without replacing what already was. This understanding was the final preparation. No more qualities needed to develop. No more balance needed to be tested. Everything required was already present, and still the night did not rush forward. It allowed the threshold to remain quiet. As you listen now, you may feel yourself hovering in that same quiet. No effort to go deeper, no effort to stay alert, just ease. The Slavic people believed that creation respected this ease, that nothing entered the world until ease was stable enough to remain. In this final stillness, the night could finally say, without words, that it was ready, ready not to act, but to receive, ready not to change, but to allow change. This is the core of the topic. Creation begins only when stillness is strong enough to remain kind. As your awareness softens further, you are resting inside the same kindness. Nothing is demanded of you. Nothing is expected. The threshold remains. Calm remains. Possibility remains. And somewhere within this balanced quiet, without sound or signal, the conditions for form are now complete. Not complete as an ending, complete as a beginning. That does not need to hurry. Creation is now possible, but it is still not here. For now, remain here, inside the quiet threshold, where form could begin, without breaking what came before. Nothing more is required, only this calm staying, this gentle readiness, this night that learned how to hold a beginning without becoming where you are. Nothing has crossed over. Nothing has started moving. The night is still whole. You are inside the Slavic night before creation, at the place where everything is ready, and yet nothing insists on beginning. The elders spoke of this day as the almost beginning, not because something failed to happen, but because patience chose to remain patient. The night could now support form. It could support duration. It could support relation. And still, it did not rush. This is an essential part of the topic. In the Slavic understanding, creation was never inevitable. It was possible, and possibility was treated gently. The night did not assume that readiness demanded action. Readiness, in their view, was complete on its own. As you listen now, notice how stillness feels sufficient. Nothing missing, nothing calling. That feeling is the same fullness. The night rested within. The elders believed this was the last moment where the world could have remained uncreated, not empty, not lacking, simply complete as it was. This belief mattered deeply. It meant existence was a choice, not a correction. The night did not need the world to justify itself. It allowed the world because it could. In this almost beginning, nothing leaned forward, nothing pulled away. Possibility rested evenly throughout the calm. As your breathing settles, as your awareness becomes lighter, you are resting inside the same evenness. There is no tension here, no anticipation, no expectation, only patience. That does not feel like waiting. The Slavic people believed this was the purest state of balance, before action, before form, before consequence. Balance without effort. The night did not ask what would happen next. Questions belong to time. Time had not yet begun, so the night simply remained with what was possible. This remaining was not hesitation. It was respect. Respect for stillness. Respect for calm. Respect for what already existed. As you rest now, notice how respect feels in the body. Soft, unforced, settled. The elders believed that when creation finally came, it carried this respect with it. That is why the world, in their memory, was never meant to be harsh by nature. Harshness came later, from forgetting. Here, nothing had been forgotten yet. The almost beginning lasted longer than any beginning that followed. Because once form appears, change accelerates. Before form, everything moved at the pace of calm. The night enjoyed its own completeness, not with pride, not with awareness, with quiet contentment. As your awareness softens further, you may feel that same contentment, not happiness, not excitement, just enough. This is the last stillness before the story truly turns. The elders said that if you listen closely enough, you can still feel the state inside yourself. In moments when nothing needs to happen, in moments when rest is full. The night before creation did not disappear when the world began. It became the deep background that still supports everything. Here, in the almost beginning, that background was all there was, and it was enough. As you lie listening, you are not approaching an event. You are resting inside the final patience that allowed the event to exist. Nothing presses forward, nothing pulls away. Only this calm holding, where the night chose not to hurry. Creation is closer now than it has ever been. But closeness does not mean urgency. For now, remain here, inside the almost beginning, inside the patience that respected stillness enough to let it be complete. Nothing more is required, only this quiet balance, this gentle fullness, this night that stood at the edge of becoming and chose to rest one moment longer.